You're seeing a lot of stuff bemoaning the lackluster upgrade that the Fold 5 is over something like the Fold 4. And that's not the entire story. Listen, I'm going to be right there with everybody else when I get the Fold 5 in here and do the comparison video. There's not enough there to justify an upgrade from a Fold 4 to a Fold 5, even with the $1,000 trade-in offer being considered. It's just not that much of a boost. However, that's not how humans handle upgrades. There's very few people sitting there with a perfectly well-functioning Fold 4. He's saying, you know what, I'm bored with it. I'm going to upgrade to a Fold 5. There are some enthusiasts that are disappointed by the lack of upgrades, but most people, if you're already in the Fold pool, are going to be upgrading from a Fold 2 or a Fold 3. Perhaps this is going to be your first Fold ever and you're considering a Fold 5. And there are several things that you can pick up, especially from those older generations, that I do think is worth upgrading to a Fold 5. And I certainly think, and we're going to go into that a little bit in detail, that the Fold 5, if you're finally ready for that bigger internal display on a mobile device, that the Fold series from Samsung should be your first foray into that, as opposed to something like the Google Pixel Fold. But let's talk about it. So, obviously, Fold 4 is out, right? Don't even consider that. However, if you have a 2 and a 3, there are some upgrades that were available on the 4 that you didn't get to take advantage of that now you can on the Fold 5. So let's talk about what you get. If you have a Fold 2, $600 is your trade-in promotional offer. That's good until the 11th of August. Link in the description. If you buy through that link, it does directly help the channel, and I really appreciate it. $600 brings that cost down to $1,200, which is more in line with what you'd get if you were just buying an S23 Ultra straight away. If you have a Fold 3, $800 is the promotional credit. That's now until August 11th. They'll have other stuff. They have the bonus. You can get the storage upgrade that they have. You get 512 gigabytes on the storage. There are a bunch of things that they're offering. And throughout the year, Samsung does a good job of offering bits and bobs here and there. But the big one is that $800 on your Fold 3 and your $600 on your Fold 2. If you're coming from a Fold 2, there are several things you're going to notice. The biggest one for me is the external display experience. The Fold 2 has that kind of beveled or curved edge to the display going down to the Fold itself, the fold over point. That, to me, when I was using it, kind of made the front screen seem even smaller than it really was. You got that 25:9 aspect ratio that carries on both the Fold 2 and the Fold 3. When you upgrade to a Fold 5, you're going to get the flat display across, with the kind of flat frame of the device. So even though there wasn't a size difference there, but we'll talk about that in a moment, even if there weren't a size difference, the flatter display on the external display, instead of that curved display, feels like more of the screen is usable because you use it right to the edge. Then, on the Fold 5, you're getting an aspect ratio change. It's not a huge one. There's still a 6.2-inch display. However, it is a 23.1 by 9 aspect ratio. What does that mean? Basically, it means that they've given you a couple extra millimeters side to side, a little bit width. You're getting, I think it's 2 millimeters. May not seem like a huge deal. However, for a typing experience, for your thumbs, for scrolling, for apps, it brings it from a frustrating experience, at least for me, typing wise, to one I could live with, where I could feel okay going most of the day on the external display and not having to go inside to the internal display, even though I still preferred the internal display experience. So, what are some other things that you're going to notice coming from a Fold 2 or a Fold 3? I really can't. From a Fold 3, you still have S Pen support on your Fold 3. You still have 120 hertz on the external display. Those are things that you don't have on the Fold 2, so consider that when you're upgrading. On the inside, you're not going to notice a whole lot of difference because a lot of the optimizations and multitasking stuff from Android 12L have trickled down to your Fold 3, so that's not a big deal. The software experience isn't going to be a huge jump. You do get a little bit more. The internal aspect ratio changes just a little bit because of that external change on those extra millimeters. The one thing that I think you're going to notice is the increased battery life. The Snapdragon, it wasn't so much a problem on the Snapdragon 865 on your Fold 2, even though I think you're going to notice an increased battery life going to the Fold 5. But from the Fold 3, That Snapdragon 888, I understand performance-wise it's still fine. I understand that you're not having problems opening Twitter and Instagram, and you're really not having any issues there. The one thing that you're going to notice is that the power efficiency of this newer generation of Snapdragon is significantly better than something like the Snapdragon 888. You're going to notice, I'm going to talk, it's going to be 2 hours more of screen on time. 6.5, 7 hours of screen on time. And some people are reporting even more with their early Fold units, Fold 5 units, as opposed to, what do you get now? 4.5? Maybe if you're careful, it's 5. To the point where you have to kind of regulate what you're doing on a daily basis or top off. Not the case anymore coming to a Fold 5. So if you have a Fold 2 or a Fold 3, I would recommend taking advantage of that trade-in offer and getting the extra battery life and performance, resetting the clock on software support. One UI, fantastic support. I love what Samsung has done with their software. I think it's the best foldable software in the business. So get yourself a couple extra years of that. If you could get it down to that $1,000 price range, trading in a Fold 3 for $800. One of the things that people you might not consider or think is a big deal is it closing flat now. They've redesigned the hinge. I'm not going to say whether it's stronger or not because I want to get it in hand. But one thing you will notice by closing flat, it's not necessarily that, it protects it, sure, by extra dust and debris getting in there. But the external display experience gets better because of that. It folding flat and holding flat against your hand, it's a little bit less work that your thumb has to do. It's going to feel a little bit more natural in your hand than the split does. That creates a bit of a hump. You got to hear where you're putting it with your thumb. It's not a huge deal, but I do think it's a quality of life improvement that you'll notice coming from one of those older devices if that's on your mind. Otherwise, you already have excellent displays. There's already a lot of things that you're liking on your devices. Like I said, performance-wise, it's not a huge deal. But I think between the hinge, the upgraded aspect ratio that you get, it's still not something like a Vivo Fold. It's still not something even like a Google Pixel Fold, where you're going to sit there and spend the entire day on it or want to spend the entire day on it. But if you have to, social media scrolls, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff looks fine on this outer display, and it's got enough room with the aspect ratio. For me, I got big thumbs to be able to type comfortably to where I like the external display experience a lot better than I did on my Fold 2, and that's similar on the Fold 3. Internally, like I said, you're not going to notice a huge difference. Here's why I choose a Fold 5 over something like a Pixel Fold. Number one is that software we talked about. App pairs are easy. It's just an overall better experience. Multitasking is a better experience. It feels like the software. It feels like a complete product. Instagram, Twitter, it's a full app experience. They have good lock. They're not sitting there waiting for Instagram to update their apps. Samsung knew that the foldable market, not a huge market in consideration of all the devices that are out there. App developers are really not going to be enticed to sit there and upgrade their apps or just for your aspect ratio or to screw around with it to make it where it's pleasing. Samsung knew that. Vivo knew that. Huawei knows that. There's a lot of companies out there making foldables that have a solution for the apps that Google just felt the need not to do. I just think that it's between the actual hinge itself, which is solid on the Pixel Fold. Don't get me wrong. I just hate that crease there that you got. It intrudes on every piece of content that I look at. And when you pair that with the software experience, the lack of app pairs, the lack of multitasking, the lack of app optimization, if this is your first time out on a Fold, I highly recommend for your first time out, until Google can do some things there, but Google doesn't exactly have a track record of doing things in a timely fashion to upgrade. And they have to acknowledge it as a problem in the first place, which they haven't done yet. I'm just saying, if this is your first time out, pick up the Pixel Fold. You're getting a 5th generation device. Pick up the Samsung Galaxy Fold. They should have changed those names. You're getting a 5th generation device. You're getting a device that feels like it's meant to utilize the internal display. It feels like the main event is supposed to be the internal display. And for me, if I'm spending $1,800 on a device for a foldable, the outer display experience is nice. It's important. It shouldn't be forgotten. However, I could just get a slab and get that experience. The main event has to be the usability and how nice it is to multitask on the internal display. That, to me, is the biggest part of a foldable. If you agree, the Fold 5 is your product. If you've made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, Have that Steve-licious day.